People sometimes ask me what the biggest risk to turnkey rental properties is, and I can tell you that my answer is not going to be obvious at all. Here's what I think the biggest risk is. Turnkey rental properties have notoriously been labeled as hands-off rental properties. I am absolutely one of the culprits of this. My Turnkey Rental Properties ebook calls them hands-off rental properties. I named it before I realized the repercussions of that. What seems to have happened with turnkey rental properties being labeled as hands-off rental properties, and what I think translates into the biggest risk with rental properties, with turnkey rental properties, is that people hear hands-off and they think they don't need to keep their brain attached to their shoulders. And they assume that they're going to get this perfect property in exactly the condition that it's advertised, and that they never need to lift a finger. Now, that is what should happen with turnkeys. But I have this theory that if there's humans involved in any equation, there's room for error. And there's always, not always error with turnkeys, but there's enough error where you need to keep your brain attached. And you should, while all the heavy lifting is done for you, you should keep an eye on things. And so, for example, buying a turnkey rental property, it's 100% on you to do the due diligence to verify that you are actually getting the property in the condition that was advertised. That's on you, man, because if you close on the property and something doesn't check out, you have no one to blame but yourself. And people love to blame the turnkey provider. Yeah, they should have done it, but if you didn't verify it, guess what? Welcome to being a real estate investor. It is up to you to do that verification. And don't ever let a turnkey company tell you, oh, we do the due diligence on your behalf. No. Bad messaging in an industry where the only person who should do the due diligence is absolutely you. The second way that I've seen this play out is that after somebody closes on a turnkey rental property, let's say some kind of challenge comes up, and they just assume that it'll all get taken care of for them, or that the property manager will take care of everything for them. No problem. Well, that should happen, yes. There was an example. I had an investor say, I said, hey, how's your property performing? It's been, a couple of years or whatever. And they said, well, it's doing pretty good now, but I had a lot of expenses in the beginning. I was like, why? Because you really shouldn't have any expenses with a turnkey property in the beginning. It's freshly rehabbed. Like, what could have possibly gone wrong? And there was an instance where something malfunctioned with the dishwasher and it flooded the whole kitchen floor. And it ended up costing the investor $7,000. And I said, did you call your insurance company? Like, hello. And he was like, oh, no, I guess I didn't really think to do that. Hello. And I said, seriously? Because you paid $7,000 out of your pocket and didn't think anything of that? I said, did you let the turnkey provider know? And they were like, no, I just assumed the property manager would have done that. Okay, hands off. Like, you've got to stay on your game. Turnkeys are fantastic because you can mostly not have to worry about them. And even when you have to worry about something, you don't have to do a lot of the work to worry. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to fix the problem. You just have to make sure the problem is getting fixed. Always keeping an eye on the property manager. Be willing to put your foot down if somebody's kind of messing with you. If a property manager stops performing, be willing to put your foot down and make a change. I've had to fire property managers and hire new ones. That's part of my job as an owner. Should I have to do that on turnkey property? No, but we're not talking about perfection here either. Like, hello. So I think the biggest risk to turnkeys is in the messaging. The messaging is that they're hands off, and people take that very literally, and it completely bones them because they either don't do the due diligence to buy the property and then they're shocked when something isn't right afterwards and they have to pay for it, or they can't figure out why the property manager isn't basically making all their decisions for them and taking care of the property like they should. Again, should all these things be happening? Yes, absolutely. But hello, we're in real estate investing. Like, bow up, man. You gotta, don't be 100% hands off. Mostly, but not 100%. That is the biggest risk to turnkeys, the messaging.